Yo, what is going on, you guys? So today I'm bringing you guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a $1,000 budget challenge. And basically, if I had $1,000 to spend, this is how I would spend it. Before we get into that, I did want to say thank you so much to our sponsor, collectibles.com, for sponsoring this video. It's pretty much a social app where you can get updates and a lot of cool features that you would get from a media platform, but predicated around sports cards. So definitely follow us on there at Sports Card Invest to stay tuned with us and our postings on there. It's definitely a great app that I would recommend to use to stay ahead of the market, to just get all the sports card news and social aspect of the hobby that I truly recommend. So without further ado, let's hop right into the video. All right, guys, so if I had $1,000, the first 30% I would predicate to all-timers. Guys like Michael Jordan, guys like LeBron, guys like Kobe. Of course, if it is a $1,000 budget challenge, 30% would mean $300. What options could you get for guys like Michael Jordan, Kobe, LeBron for $300? There are a couple options that I do really like. I would say overall, there's not going to be as many options as if you went for the next tier, guys like, the next tier, guys like Tracy McGrady, Kevin Garnett, Shaq, even his cards are a little bit lower. But for those three all-time greats for basketball, the one I do really like is LeBron's 2003 Upper Deck rookie exclusives. If you guys are unaware, 2003, Upper Deck was one of the biggest companies, was one of the most popular companies, and this was one of LeBron's first ever cards in a Cavaliers uniform. I think it's got a super sick pose. It's got a great long-term collectability over this card, and it's a pretty reasonably priced card. You can get a PSA 9 for just $70. You can even get a PSA 10 for under $300 for one of LeBron's, I would say, cleanest rookie cards in terms of at that time, in that era. His Upper Deck was up there, and there's not many other options to go for in that price range. So I definitely really like this card for the long term at a little under $300. If I was a buyer with $300 to spend, this is definitely a card that I would look at strongly. Other guys that would be in that list would be guys like Steph Curry. I think a lot of his cards are super low pop, so of course you probably couldn't get a tops for that price. But his Upper Deck as well, his rookie stars is around that price. I know his PSA 10 goes for a little bit more, but his PSA 9, his BGS 9.5 you could even get in that budget. And I think this card is predicated to do really well long term. A lot of Curry's cards are very low pop, so you can get his next tier of rookie cards for in that price range. And I just think in the long term, I don't think you will be seeing LeBron or Steph prime rookie cards for under that $300 price point in a gem mint grade. I just don't really see that happening. So I think you're going to do really well for the long term. Of course, there's a lot of guys you can go for all-time grades. There's guys like Kareem, Hakeem, an 86 Fleer you can never go wrong with. So whether that's, we can go for a Hakeem 1986 Fleer. There's a lot of cards that you can go after for all-time greats that are in that price point that I think will hold up very well for the long term. A lot of guys I would recommend. I would really recommend tying it into, if you're holding it for the long term, I really recommend tying it into some collectability aspect. So for me, I grew up in the Bay Area. I'm a big Steph Curry fan. That would be a card that I would really enjoy having in my collection for the long term, and it helps me hold it for the long term. Because I would definitely predicate some of that $1,000 for more longer term holding, just because it takes time for all-time greats cards to go up. They don't go up overnight like a Jaden Daniels who has a big game. So I would definitely recommend having that long-term collectability as well, because it helps you enjoy that card and want to hold on to that card. I also do really like the lower end autos of all-time greats. Guys like Kevin Durant, you can get in that $300 price point right now for a pop 14, PSA 10, gem mint grade for an auto of his. I don't think you will be able to see them this cheap in the long term. I think in the long term, this card has great potential. I just don't see you getting an all-time great PSA 10 auto in that price point for a guy like Kevin Durant for his low pop autos. Of course, he has some autos that he signed a lot more, and those are a little bit different. But even if you look at guys like Magic Johnson, he signed so much and his cards still hold up. His autos still hold up. And I think they're great investments for the long term. Like if you can get a nice patch auto of Magic Johnson for $300, you're a Lakers fan, you grew up watching Magic, whatever it is, this is a card that I think would have immense long-term potential. Of course, it may be past his days where you see him really skyrocket. But I overall think even in his lifetime, even as he continues to sign, I still think that demand will outpace supply for a lot of Magic Johnson autos that you can get in that $300 price point. There are plenty that you can find. Probably not going to get you national treasures or flawless, but aside from that, there's pretty much options for most. Of course, exquisite as well. But aside from those, I think you will be able to find a lot in that price range. Some even lower. You look at some of these, PSA 10 auto of Magic Johnson Pop 12 that you can get at $100, $200. I would definitely focus a lot of that $300 on cards like that. Now, next up on that list would be current stars. So guys like Nikola Jokic, guys who have already done a lot, who have already won MVPs, won finals, who have done those things but are yet to finish. So I think there's a lot of upside and a lot less risk compared to going for younger players who haven't won anything. So you're hedging your bet, but you're still taking that upside potential. So when you look at guys like Nikola Jokic, you can get, his prisms for in that, $300 to $400 range. I would probably put 40% of that 1,000 in current stars. So guys who have already won championships, who have already won MVPs, guys like Giannis, Jokic, Curry, LeBron, Durant, guys who I think are going to do well for the long term, even if they retire today, but they still have that upside to keep going. So I would definitely recommend, if you have that budget, having $400 towards this category, I think is the best risk-reward ratio, because you have that upside that you don't get, that insane upside, that double, triple upside in the all-time greats, but you're going to get that in these Jokic, Curry, LeBrons, if they do win more championships, if they do win more MVPs, if they do continue to ascend. So I really like these. I just think there's not much downside if they do. If Jokic gets knocked out of the playoffs this year, you're not going to see his prices tank. He's already won MVPs. He's already won a championship. But if he wins, I could see it continuing to rise and having more hype. So I really like these kind of tier of Jokic, Giannis, LeBron, Curry, Giannis, I would say there's a handful of players in the league that I could think if they retire today, I still see their prices, going up in the long term. So I really like guys like that. I think there's good upside, less downside, good risks to take. So without further ado, I would say the last 30% would go towards those young stars, would go towards those guys who haven't won championships, guys who are, going to potentially ascend in this league and going to potentially be the next tier. Of course, you can look at guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. There's plenty of names in this list. I'm sure you guys are super familiar. Wembanyama, Brennan Miller, Trae Young, a lot of guys in this list that I think could potentially hit that next level. I would still be careful with the cards you buy. Still understand, no matter how good of a buy anyone looks, I think there's still a good amount of downside just because their players are priced in pretty high. If you look at, Shai Gilgeous' top cards, they're priced in very high. So you've got that expectation embedded into prices to some extent. Now the question is, can they exceed those already high expectations? And there have been players that have. If you look at guys like LeBron, they came into the league with an insane amount of expectation, and they continue to exceed expectations, and their prices kept going up. I think if Shai continues to exceed expectations, we will see his prices going up, as we have seen over the last 90 days. So if you can get some of his cards, gamble with that 30%, but take calculated risks. Guys who you think are going to win MVPs, are going to win championships soon. You look at guys like Jason Tatum, Shai Gilgeous, guys who are really positioning themselves to exceed expectations in the long term. If you can get into those players, put that 30% there, I would definitely suggest, taking those upside risks. I wouldn't say go all out and go for a player who no one's heard of and potentially is going to, go to zero at one point. But I think, there's a handful of guys who I would say I'm fairly confident are going to take that jump. And Shai would be one of them. Luka would be one of them. Tatum would be one of them. I really like Luka right now because he's playing in front of LA. And LA, if you guys know, is the hub of sports cards. So much demand that comes from collectors that you limit your downside a little bit when you've got so many collectors buying in, because that continues to help demand stay higher than it usually would be if he was staying in a smaller market team. So I do really like Luka's cards right now. I think they've got great upside for the long term. They've already started to see that jump. But I think in the long term, you could continue to see that jump if he continues to play the way he is in LA and in the spotlight, potentially win a championship, potentially win MVPs, all that sort of jazz. So I really like Luka's cards heading in right now. For that 30% budget that I would allocate to that more risky side, the guys who haven't won MVPs or championships, I think those are the two most important accolades to win in terms of long-term price growth. And of course, popularity is a big one. That's why I really love guys like Steph, Luka Doncic. Super fun to watch, a lot of popularity, a lot of collectability. So I really like those cards. So without further ado, we're going to close out the video. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. I want to thank you guys for all the support recently. Really helps to see that you guys are supporting, that you guys love the videos. So drop a like and subscribe for more videos like this. And other than that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.